angels willing to hold us in their arms. When our worth was stone, our ashes, and we both passed on. Let forever mean forever and carry on.
Good afternoon. So I guess I'll start out with if there's any interruptions tonight as far as my connection to YouTube and or Facebook. Something weird with the internet today, and I'm not quite so sure that it's my connection. Couple of websites have had issues with today, totally unrelated websites including Facebook and Etsy. But it's weird because other sites will load, so it may not be our actual internet per se. It could be something down the line a little bit that affects a certain group of websites. That all goes above my pay grade, but there's like, I believe it's different servers, and they kind of take care of different groupings of domain addresses and stuff like that. Again, it's kind of above my pay grade, but I do know that does happen from time to time. There'll be a slew of websites that'll be unavailable, and it happens to be because you go through that particular junction, so to speak, to access those websites. So it may not be an issue. It may be an issue. If it is, well, you'll know. So let's see. As far as updates, obviously I did the one-handed fire challenge this weekend. Uploaded the video of it. There's multiple ways to skin a cat. So do what works. That is what I recommend to anybody on anything. Is do what works for you. That was just the way that I had thought of. I thought, you know what, I keep seeing people take and scrape material off of their ferro rod and use that. I had never actually done that before. That was the first time I'd actually done that, scraped material off of the ferro rod to be able to use it as an ignition source. And then, of course, I used a little bit of fat wood and scraped some of that off, and was successful. So I do suffer from carpal tunnel. Plus I have joint problems and whatnot, so arthritis in my hands real bad. So that was not an easy task. Holding on to anything smaller than, say, a screwdriver for me, for any length of time, is kind of hard to do. My hands cramp up. The worst thing for me to do is to write with a pencil or a pen. Oh my goodness, I absolutely hate it. It just kills my hands. So, holding on to that scraper, doing that was actually a pretty challenging task in and of itself for me. So do whatever it is that works for you, but I urge you, if you haven't gotten out and started a fire this weekend using alternative means, then please do so at your first available time. It's important, folks. It is so highly important to have the ability to do that. I can't impress enough onto you how important fire is. So continuing along kind of those lines, I will be thinking of something for everybody to do this coming weekend. I don't have anything in mind right now. I will think of something. I will come up with something. Folks, it's time to either, let it go or get off the pot, okay? Without a doubt. I'm seeing things this weekend in the news that is not good. Not good. Today, for instance, Trump signed a proclamation essentially saying that he recognizes, and the United States recognizes, I didn't vote for this, by the way, and I don't approve of this, just want to make my stance clear, that Golan Heights is a part of Israel. I am in complete disagreement with that, as well with a lot of the international community is in disagreement with that. And I think that I think he just started another conflict. is what happened. I really do think that. We'll see, and it will unfold. Just about the time that I'm looking down at Venezuela, which I'll be talking about that here in just a second, just when I'm looking down in Venezuela, thinking, man, this is where it's going to kick off, something else happens with the Middle East. So, my message is get ready and keep your ear, to the ground and know what it is that's coming, by who, when. I think that's going to hold a substantial amount of importance as to what you need to do, knowing what it is that kicked it off, okay? This isn't good. This isn't good. We do not need a world war. We absolutely do not need a world war. And that's what we're looking at. Our meddling is going way too far. Way too far. Which brings me to the second bit of news that happened today as breaking news. Venezuela is having another blackout. So I forget what the thing said, 16 of 21 states or something. So a considerable blackout in Venezuela. Unbelievable. And, here's the thing. Over the weekend, Russia has bolstered its forces, from my understanding, in Venezuela. From my understanding, they've added more troops down there. My understanding, they've installed a missile defense system down there. This is big stuff. This is big stuff. When countries do things, right, and that was, that information isn't out there in the news per se. I can't show you a news article, okay, confirming that information. I'm sorry. Do I believe the information to be true and correct? Absolutely, for the most part. And that brings me to what I was saying. When these countries do things, right, like, for instance, when we put THAAD missile defense systems down in South Korea, we claim that we put, 3 down there? And I think the last I heard, there were 5 that were discovered total, and that was at the time, and everything's been hush-hush, and I haven't heard a word about that since. So when countries do these things, if you hear 1, it means multiple. It means multiple. So even if they, you're hearing that they put 1 missile defense system, 1 mobile missile defense system down in Venezuela, it means they've probably put multiple down there. They are building up in Venezuela, without a doubt, and for good reason. So China's there helping out with the electrical grid, and so I have a feeling that this time around, if there's any tomfoolery going on with them losing their power, I have no doubt this time around it's going to get traced down. If we were involved in that, that's not going to be a good thing. Now, I hadn't heard anything more. The second time they had a blackout, there were a couple of people apprehended. I have not heard any more on that. So I have no idea. Don't know what's going on with that. But obviously they're continuing the coup, or the coup attempt, down there in Venezuela. These are not good things. Okay? As I'm sure you are all aware, and probably heard about it so much you want to puke by now. The Mueller investigation has come to a close. Okay? And it has been determined, as we've all been saying, that there was no Russian collusion. Okay? That is reason to worry. Not that Trump didn't commit treason. Don't get me wrong. That's great. That's awesome. I think the results of this is great, and hopefully Blue Team will settle down a little bit. But I have a feeling it's not. In fact, I have a feeling it's going to get worse. So why am I saying that, this isn't necessarily a good thing? Because that means the powers that be didn't get their way. And the powers that be are used to getting their way. So now they're going to be kicking and screaming. That could have a direct effect on you and I. and most likely will. Okay? You have to understand. And I don't take up with a political side or a political party. I don't support Trump. No, and I don't hate Trump. I don't wish bad for Trump, but I wish great for Trump. Plain and simple. Right? He's our president. He's the president of the United States. For me to wish bad for him would mean that I wish bad for our country, and that would be insane. Absolutely not. But I don't support, well, for one, I don't support mankind, okay? In that type of sense. I'm not a cheerleader for mankind. I'm a cheerleader for God. There's a reason for that. Right? I'm not supposed to worship man and God. I'm supposed to worship God, and that's what I intend to do. So when I say I don't support Trump, it's not a knock towards Trump. It has nothing to do with him. Okay? My favorite person on earth could be president. Okay? And it wouldn't be any different. It wouldn't be any different. I would wish well for them, because obviously that would be well for the United States. But I'm not going to sit there and cheerlead for him, because that puts yourself in a bad situation. Look at the Democrats right now. Okay? They were all cheerleading for the Dems. They were all cheerleading for Mueller and his investigation and all that. Look where they're sitting right now. Okay? That's why it's important not to do that. It's only a matter of time before you cheerlead for somebody that turns out to be in the wrong. And what's that do for you? See, I'm big about credit. Not credit as in your credit score, but, somebody not having a history of passing on misinformation. People that haven't been discredited or don't continually discredit themselves. There's a lot of people I follow on social media. Okay, and I use the word follow loosely. You know what I mean. And they're constantly a barrage of misinformation, right? The propaganda from their team, okay? And, if they were to post something true, chances are I would pass over it and not even give it a second thought. Why? Because they are consistently posting misinformation. Consistently. So, again, it's one reason why I have no interest in cheerleading for any political party or anything like that. I'll cheerlead for God. I'll cheerlead for the Constitution. I'll cheerlead for those of us that want to know the truth. Okay? And they're kind of few and far between. But it is what it is. We need to be on our toes even more. Because God only knows. And again, I kind of got off on a tangent there. The reason why I did that is because I felt like I needed to lead into saying this. I can't sit here and say with 100% certainty whether or not Trump is just another one of the deep state or if he's not. I can tell you this. The country that controls the deep state is Israel. And Trump is certainly a cheerleader for Israel, without a doubt. Without a doubt. So that does make me wonder, well, is he just another one of them? Is he just one of the same? I have to ask that question. If I didn't, I would be doing a disservice to myself and to you and anybody else out there that wants to know the truth. So I have to ask these questions. So either he is or he isn't. I can't prove one way or another. Believe me, if I knew, I would be a very, very happy camper. But let's just humor ourselves for a moment and say he's not. Let's just say that he and the deep state are not one and the same, and that they are at odds, true odds with one another. If that's the case, we are in more peril right now for SHTF than we were last week. Because again, they're used to getting their way, and they're used to being able to kick and scream And I don't know how they're going to do that this time. I don't know what they're going to choose. At some point, and again, this is under the assumption that Trump isn't one of them, okay, then I can guarantee you that they're pretty upset with all of you that voted Trump in office. Okay? They probably don't have a whole lot of use for you. So, do you think they'll really care what happens to you? They want their power. They want their control. They want their whatever issy or ick or whatever you want to call it. Okay? There's all these words, or ism, there you go, ism. There's all these words that end with these certain things, right? That's what I was getting at, right? And depending on which group you talk to, somebody, oh, the United States is an oligarchy, oh, the United States is you don't have to muddy up the waters with all these frickin' words, okay? You really don't. Life can be pretty simple, good, bad. Pretty simple, good, bad. That's all you need. That's all you need to know, right? Hillary Clinton, bad, no doubt, right? That's all you need. You don't have to come up with all these words to explain what she is or who she represents. Or you don't need all that. That's nothing but drama and confusion. All you need is good and bad. So, I think we are in a lot of danger. I really, really do. There's a lot of things going on globally right now, especially in energy markets and financial markets. And I don't see that they're going to go unnoticed and undealt with. You've got this whole thing with this new Silk Road. You've got this whole thing where this big train bridge or whatever between Russia and China has just, I assume, is completed. Okay. They're not going to look highly, and I'm speaking about they, those, them, are not going to look highly about not being in control of the flow of that energy, whether it be liquid gas or whether it be liquefied natural gas, I believe, LNG, or whether it be the typical petrol fuels like diesel fuel and gasoline. All of these things, they are not going to just sit by and let other countries become dominant. And right now, when it comes to energy production and energy exports, Russia is becoming dominant. Well, they have to transport that one way or another, whether it be through pipelines, railways, motorways. Look, we're going to Britain. Motorways, wherever the case, right? They have to transport those materials somehow. I expect to see something happen very soon to those methods, to these new pipelines that Russia has, to this new rail bridge and all that they just completed. So keep your eyes open for that, an accident, quote unquote. I can't impress it enough to get ready. I just can't. I can't. I literally want to reach out and grab all of you and look you straight in the eye and say, get ready. I've never been like this. It's almost, in a sense, like I feel like I'm being manic. All right? And I'm not a manic kind of person, okay? That's what's so worrisome to me. It isn't necessarily the news I'm looking at and the deductions I'm making. It's my reaction to it. So, stay calm, as I'm saying, as I'm talking about mania, right? Stay calm and get ready. Start going through your preps. Start organizing your preps. That's huge. That's huge. I was just talking to a friend of mine on Facebook. She needs some more decals made up. I've done some custom decals for her. And I said, I got to see if I can find the files. When it comes to my hard drives and my files, I'm as organized as a schizophrenic cat. And that's true. You would, if you were to look at my hard drives, you'd be like, what? I mean, there's not a whole lot of rhyme or reason there. And I really need to sit down and do something about that. But that's like office stuff, and I hate office stuff. Anyway, but when it comes to preps, I'm a hell of a lot more organized. I'm not organized, but I'm a lot more organized. And I need to work on that. I need to work on that. In fact, that's my task for this week, up to this weekend. Okay, by the end of this weekend, my goal is to be organized in my preps. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not disorganized in my preps. I just need to kind of go through and pair things up a little bit better than what they were before. Don't get me wrong. If that's HG, if we had to bug out in 30 minutes from now, if we had to be out the door in 30 minutes from now, that would be absolutely no sweat. No sweat. But there are things that are in my bug out bag that I probably don't really need in my bug out bag. I need to get those out and get those in another bag that makes more sense. And likewise, there are things that I should probably put in my bug out bag that aren't in there. So that's my goal, and I'm not just talking about a bug out bag. Folks, when I talk about bugging out, it's not a backpack, okay? It's 2 bike trailers, 2 bikes, my backpack, Jen's backpack. We got a couple other backpacks. We got a couple of duffel bags, okay? So it's not just grabbing a backpack and going out the door, okay? There's more than that. Why is there more than that? Because everybody, you know, and again, I spoke to this last week, that this whole idea, people, when it comes to bugging out, that you're going to be bugging out somewhere. Okay, well, that would be nice. It would be nice if I had a bug out location. It would be nice if I had a bomb shelter somewhere in the sticks, but I don't. That doesn't mean that I won't need to bug out. Okay, so not necessarily, you know, bugging out, you know, this has been a big topic in the prepping community here of late. You know, that bugging out, you shouldn't bug out if you're just not, if you don't have somewhere you're bugging out to. Well, then what are you supposed to do? Just sit there and die because you can't afford a few acres of land for a place to go bug out? Is that what they're saying? Because I won't do that. You know, that's plain and simple. You know, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to fight like you wouldn't believe to survive. And I'm going to fight even harder to make sure that Jen and Blue survive. Because that's my job as a man. So that's going to involve a lot more. Plus our situation, Jen with her cerebral palsy and stuff like that, adds a whole new different level of challenges to things. Okay? It's not as simple as just grabbing a couple backpacks and putting Blue on a leash and running out the door. It's not that simple. Now you know why we need the bicycles. We have to have that bicycle to get from one point to another, because Jen can't walk that kind of a distance, and especially not very fast. Okay? So she might be able to pace a snail, but I'm getting the look. She knows I'm joking with her. However, like I told you guys from the very beginning, back right when I first started the news show and right after I met Jen, I said the reason why I choose her for a girlfriend is because when the zombie apocalypse comes, at least I can outrun her. So, you know, relationship goals, right? So anyway, you know, there is more thought and more supplies and stuff that goes into us bugging out, okay? Because our lives are not going to be quite as easy as the average guy or girls in a bug out situation. So that's why we need so much stuff, okay? Because if we bug out, if we have to bug out, because my first, I want to bug in, right? That's my first goal, is to bug in. So if we bug out, it's not, you know, it's not something to where that we've got a place we're bugging out to in particular. Okay, we kind of do, but it's not anywhere in particular. You see what I'm saying? It's not property we own. It's not property anybody else owns. It's not, I know where we're going, but I don't own the property and whatever, right? But so it's probably safe to say that we're going to need to be able to sustain ourselves completely from ourselves. In other words, I don't want to have to be able to count on hunting, fishing, foraging, and all that good stuff in the beginning. Okay, because first off, I got to make sure we're safe and secure. I have to make sure that we're concealed. Okay, and then I have to get us set up. Okay, and I have to make sure that everything's good to go. I have to make sure that I feel safe with being able to leave Jen long enough to go do hunting or fishing or foraging or whatever it is that I need to do. So again, it's a different level of challenges in a sense. Okay, in a sense. You would have to do the same things too, right? But you wouldn't have as many obstacles to hurdle. Okay? Not a big deal. It's to me it's more of a challenge, and I love a challenge. That's just me. But get ready. Get ready, because I look at strategy, and that's one of the areas that I excel, is strategy. And I go through all the different things that other countries could do to stop the United States from doing what it's doing. And the same answer pops up each and every time. Knock our grid out. Knock our grid out. If our country is too busy taking care of its own, they won't have time to be committing coups in other countries. They won't be having time to be bombing innocent civilians. Okay? They're going to be busy trying to rebuild, trying to save what they can. Okay? So that's what I see happening. And I often say the word EMP, but that I don't just mean EMP. Okay? It could be anything from a physical attack on different, power, the main substations, power station. I forget what they call them, but they're the main transformer stations. There's, I believe, 7 of them in the country, right? So a physical attack on those, a cyber attack on the grid, or an EMP. So there's a number of different ways that a grid down situation can happen, and that's what I see coming. That is exactly what I see coming to this country, is grid down. So be prepared for that. Be prepared for that. Have redundancies, plenty of redundancies. Okay, do not rely. We got a lot of electronics, technology in our preps. Okay, and I say a lot. Don't get me wrong. We're poor people. we don't have a ton. But, make sure you have the analog stuff, and we have to work on that ourselves, okay, because we've got stupid little, for instance, I'm giving you an example. We've got stupid little compasses, like we've got some paracord bracelets that the buckles have little compasses in them, nothing good. Okay, we don't even have a $10 or $15 or whatever they cost at Walmart UST compass. Okay, we just don't yet, and I really need to get onto my own butt and get that done and get one. It's not an expensive item. It is what it is. But at this point, if that's HTF were to happen right now, I would be reliant on electronic devices. When it comes to any kind of accuracy as to navigation. That's not a good plan. It's not a good plan. So have redundancies. I showed you, when I made the fire making video, I showed you multiple ways to make that, to make a fire, okay? Evil Rick, if you check out his channel, he put out a video on fire making. Absolutely excellent video. Okay, and if you've got any questions about fire making, ask Evil Rick. He's on point with that stuff. He really, really is. In fact, I think it was this morning he was giving me some tips when it comes to using a flint and steel. That he noticed some areas that I wasn't doing in the best manner when I was making that video, and he made sure to give me some tips to hopefully improve my abilities with a flint and steel, because I'm not good with a flint and steel. He is. You see him with a flint and steel, you're like, he takes a few whacks and it's lit. It's done, right? And you'd seen, 5 minutes or so of me sitting there whacking, right? So it is what it is. Plus, I, had a finger injury, and so I am going to survive from that, though, by the way. Jen's kind of looking at me. So I have redundancies, plenty of redundancies. I can't emphasize enough to get prepared, to get ready, because I see it coming. I really, really do. All you have to do is follow the news headlines. Okay, let me have a sip of coffee here. What I recommend folks to do, and I know this makes a lot of people cringe, as you notice with my Twitter feed and on Facebook, most of the news articles that I share, most, not all, come from RT, Russia Today. And I've gone over this multiple times. It's the reason is because, hands down, without a doubt, the two news sources that I've found that have been the most accurate and the most honest, time and time and time again, are RT and Sputnik. Yes, both Russian publications. I can't help that. I would like to be able to provide you with, publications from the United States, sources, news from the United States that I could say the same thing about, but I can't. So it is what it is. But if you use PC and if you use the Chrome browser, I don't know anything about Firefox and don't really know anything about Microsoft Edge, but you can get an RT Chrome extension, okay? And you can install it on your browser, and that's what I have, and that's what I get a lot of my notifications from, is from that little bitty RT Chrome extension. Like right now, it's got a number 1 on it. All I have to do is click on it, see what it says. It'll come up red if it's like breaking news, but if it comes up green with the number, then it's just news, right? And so another one did. Indonesian air carrier to ditch Boeing's jets after a crash in favor of rival Airbus, okay? So anytime news pops up, they throw a little number in their little extension there, and I look at it. So I recommend you do something similar, okay? That way you stay abreast of the news. I've got a tablet that I use, I've got my phone that I use, and my computer that I use, and it'll drive you crazy with all the bings and bongs that happen throughout the house all day long. And unfortunately, I don't always pay attention to it, but I should. Stay abreast of the news. Again, I think the most important critical information is going to be that last-minute information right before the lights go out or whatever it is that happens. That's going to be your most important critical information at that time. That's how you know what to get ready for, or at least an idea. So that would be my takeaway, and that's kind of my rant part of the monologue. And I know I've been repeating myself about getting ready, getting prepared. I can't, again, if I could reach through and grab your shoulders and look you straight in the eye and say, get prepared, I would be doing it. I would absolutely be doing it. Okay, I'm trying to think of anything else, the Watchman news kind of update stuff. I can't think of anything. Looking forward to doing a bunch more videos. I did not get the Legacy food review videos done this weekend. Our friend had some things come up, so by the time she could get here, it was kind of late, so I didn't mess with that. So this coming weekend's another weekend. We'll see. We'll see if it's possible either Saturday or Sunday for me to do that. I don't want it to be just myself and Jen. Okay, and the reason being is because I want somebody that's kind of completely unaffiliated, that had nothing to do with Legacy Foods, and we don't have a lot to do with them. We're an Amazon affiliate, okay, and their products are listed on Amazon. Of course, my involvement with Pepper Nurse One. So again, I want somebody that's totally non-biased, totally not connected, and I want them to give their honest opinion on the taste, the texture, the whole 9 yards, because I think it's awesome stuff from what I've tried. I think it's awesome stuff. So Anyway, trying to think. I think that's really it as far as our updates. I'm still waiting to have the extra funds to get a green screen. I need to get a green screen. I need to get one or two cheap little USB webcams, and need to get a couple of clip lights with a couple of LED bulbs for them and stuff. And then you'll be seeing me on camera for the monologue. I'll be, you'll be looking at us during the monologue. So just have to work on getting these things. Very soon, as soon as I get the green screen and the lights, because I need that to do the new intro video. So a lot of it's going to be green screen kind of stuff. Simply, it is what it is. I've got an idea, I've got a visual in my head of what I want to portray in the new intro video, and so I need a green screen for that. Unless you guys know an apocalyptic wasteland or something that we can go visit. Oh, yeah, Detroit. No, never mind. Just kidding. Settle down, Detroit. I just picked the first city off the top of my head, Detroit. I could name any number of them. St. Louis, D.C., you know. Anyway, I think that pretty much covers that stuff. Let me go ahead and get to the headlines, and I'll get the headlines out of the way, and then we'll get started into content here. Let's see, double check. Okay. Like I said, I get kind of bings and bongs all the time, so I was, not those kind of bongs. Settle down. Be challenging me to drink the bong water. Okay, let's see. China war drills. U.S. commandos capture Japanese island to show Beijing they're not kidding around. So there's more, beating the war drums here going on. Now, this was the 22nd that I put this out, but I think it was either after the show or late into the show. I don't remember reading that headline on Friday, so I wanted to make sure to include that. Saturday, Russian Su-27 escorted U.S. B-52 bombers over Baltic Sea twice over 24 hours. Twice. So they're ramping up these flights. These flights are nothing new, right? We fly off the coast of Russia. Russia flies off our coast in bombers, and this has been going on for decades. Okay, but it's definitely ramping up. There's more and more and more of these flights. Let's see. Also on Saturday, Italy officially becomes first G7 country to join China's Belt and Road Project. Okay, this is what I was talking about earlier about the economic and the energy sectors and the economic sectors and stuff like that globally. That this is part of what I'm talking about. Let's see. Sturgeon, Blackford, Phillips address public during a rally for second referendum. That's over in the UK. I posted that on Saturday. Also on Saturday, 21 hospitalized in Syria with poisoning symptoms after militant attack. Okay, and starting from earlier today, I posted an article, Why 90% of the Population Would Die Without Electricity. Are you one of the 10%? So, an article on nextpreppers.com. I thought it was a good article. I thought it was a pretty good article. Anytime I run into articles like that, I do share them out. So, again, if you want to see that, it's on nextpreppers.com is where that article is. Let's see. Police say parents didn't realize they left a toddler alone at the park for 14 hours. How do you not know that you're missing a kid for 14 hours? I mean, don't get me wrong. People forget stuff, and sometimes it's even a child, okay? And it happens. I remember one time I was going somewhere, we were in a hurry, and, carried down everything from I was in an upstairs apartment. This is my first son's mother that I was with, and we carried everything down, diaper bag, yada, 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 got everything carried down, got in the car. I sat down in the car. I hadn't started it yet, and I sat down in the car because I always take I've got this rule, right? Before I leave, when I'm driving, well, I don't drive anymore, but then before I would take off, I would always check the car seat again, and I would stick my fingers, behind the straps for the car seat and I would give it a good few tugs, right, just to make sure that it's latched good. And it was a habit that I put myself into. And I looked around to reach back to do that, and wait a minute, there's no child in there. Not a big deal. We didn't go anywhere. We were just carrying, as we always did. We carried everything down first, and then we carried the baby down. Not a big deal. But, I could see something like that. But I didn't even start the vehicle yet. You know what I mean? 14 hours. How do you do that? By the way, that only happened one time. How do you do that? 14 hours and not realize you have a child missing. Missourians can apply for Real ID licenses starting Monday. Congratulations, Missouri. This, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, is the reason why I refuse to have an ID of any kind. Right? I don't drive, so I don't have a driver's license. Okay? And this is the biggest reason why, by the way, and I don't have a state ID, which means, guess what? I can't go get a bank account. I couldn't go get a typical type of job or anything else because I refuse to get a state ID because the state of Illinois has been Real ID compliant now for several years. No, I will not have a part in it. No, they can stick that where the sun don't shine. So, Missouri has been one of them that's kind of been holding out for a while and not getting compliant. They held the attitude that they weren't going to comply, and then they just gave in. The last I knew, there were 2, maybe 3 states that haven't complied. I only know of one that flat out refuses to comply, and that's the state of Oklahoma. So I think Alaska, I think is one of the other states that isn't compliant yet, or wasn't the last time I looked, and I can't remember the third state. Seems like there's a third state. No. Trump will recognize Israel's sovereignty over Golan Heights on Monday. I spoke about that, and you'll see it come up again here in a little bit. Israel starts striking Hamas targets throughout Gaza in response to a rocket attack. There was a rocket attack on Israel, and so they responded, of course, reacted. Man arrested for beating up teen he allegedly caught raping a 5-year-old. All right? Now, this is insane. Let me have a vape. I'm telling you, I love this Salt Neck. It is so much better than the old freebase stuff. Okay. So this man here walks into a laundry room, right, where he lives, and sees a 17-year-old raping a 5-year-old boy, right? So he jumps to action and takes it upon himself to beat the hell out of this guy. Okay? Now, anybody in their right mind would be cheering this kid on. Anybody in their right mind. He got charged with a felony. A felony. Now, members of the public in this particular location in Ohio, they called in outrage. They called the police department and said, no, hell no. Hell no. And the police's response was, well, we've already done what we've done, and it's just got to go through the system and blah, blah, blah. This ain't even right, folks. This ain't even right. So I'll keep my eye on this. April 2nd is his first court date, and I put that back in the back of my head because I want to keep an eye on this case. I want to see, hey, there's a possibility the courts could, once in a while they do a good thing, right? There is a possibility they could do a good thing, and they could let this man go and leave him alone, right? But I'm sorry, if you're sexually assaulting a child, I'm personally, I'm going to turn my head on anything that's done to the attacker. And I mean anything. Because that is just so beyond sickening and disgusting, and
You know, I'm at a loss, right? Not even charged with something like a simple battery, a misdemeanor, right? Not a big deal, right? No, a felony. He was charged with a felony for trying to protect a 5-year-old boy from being raped. This is where we live. Highland declares groundwater within city limits unsafe, bans drinking from wells. And I had to comment on the original article, on Facebook, where they posted the article originally, I should say, because there was 2 locations, right, where they tested water and they found problems. 2 locations. One of them I was familiar with, and I'm not even quite sure where the other street that they mentioned is, to be honest. I'd have to look on a map. I've lived here most all of my life. That's sad, huh? But one of the places, it's a small town. One of the places is a gas station that I used to always be a patron and all that. And they've had, from past, I knew they had problems with tanks leaking and stuff like that, where they had to replace the tanks and all that. So I have no doubt the ground is contaminated there. So why the whole town? If there's only 2 locations, why the whole town? Well, I have to give you a little bit of a backstory into this, okay? Here not that long ago, they put in a referendum, or whatever you want to call it, to raise water rates. The reason being is they're claiming that they have to go in and replace a bunch of infrastructure when it comes to the water department, and that's correct. Every other week, part of the town is under a boil order because a water main broke and they had to repair it, right? Our water infrastructure is so horrible here and so outdated here that it definitely needs revamped. But we all know well and full that these cities do this stuff and they charge you, the taxpayer, for it, and the work never gets done. I don't see the work getting done in Highland, and I doubt it's going to. Just the way it is. It's corruption. And, the thing of it is, it to me, when I hear things like this, I think, okay, so you're banning people from being off the grid. Because that's what I see. That's what I see. They're banning people from being off the grid within the city limits. That's insane. That is insane. You can't tell me that everywhere in this city the ground is contaminated because 2 locations couldn't pass the state standards. And I'd have to look up on a map at the other location, but it's interesting the location that they picked for the one, which had the gas station that's had issues with leaking tanks and stuff. They would have specifically picked that location if they wanted a bad test. Okay? Absolutely insane. It's like getting a house appraised, right? If you go to get a house appraised, you're going to go buy a house, right? And you're going to get it appraised, right? A lot of times the appraiser might appraise it, well, at least you hope, a little high, right? So that you can get the loan to purchase the house, right? But if you were going to do something with that house, like you want to remortgage the house or something like that, they'll go the other direction a lot of times. They'll go low, right? Or when the city tax assessor comes through, right, to give you a tax assessment on your property, right, they're going to really jack up the appraisal. This ain't no different, right? They could have picked a couple of locations in town that they knew the water was going to be good, and not be able to make this claim. So that's what they did. And in my opinion, that's what they did. They went to locations they knew they wouldn't pass the state test, so that they could enact this ban on wells within the city of Highland. So absolutely mind-blowing. This is interesting. This is I never heard of this. This is the first time I had heard of this. It was called the Bonus Army, and it was way back in the early 1900s, okay? And the men were coming back from World War I, and so the government had promised them like a bonus check when they got back, right? And apparently apparently the government didn't follow through on its promises on giving them their bonus check, and these men were hurting bad financially, really, really bad. And so a group of them got together and they marched on Washington, right? And so they were there for quite some time. And what have I been saying? What have I been saying for that we need to do? We need to march on our state and federal capitals, okay? And we need to stay there. I'm not talking about a one-day on Saturday event. I'm talking about pitch a tent, okay, and stay there until things are done. Well, that's what these men did. That is exactly what these men did. And what happened? Our government had its own U.S. military attack the veterans to get rid of them. I never even knew about it. Bonus Army. That's what they call them. It's on YouTube. There's a video that talks about it. Just Google or just YouTube Bonus Army. I'm sure you'll find it. Absolutely mind-blowing. Not a very long video, but good. I'll probably play it after the monologue. I'll probably play this. Let's see. U.S. won't stand idly by as Russia exacerbates tensions in Venezuela, says Pompeo. Trump signs proclamation recognizing Israel's sovereignty over Golan Heights. Father of Sandy Hook shooting victim found dead. Yeah. And this is like the third one, if I'm not mistaken. Attack on sovereignty and territorial integrity. Syria reacts to Trump's Golan Heights move. Over $30 billion of Venezuela's assets stolen on Trump's orders, says an official. Yeah, but it was communism, right? That is putting them in such bad shape. It's yeah, we blame it on communism. I'm not defending communism. I'm not saying communism is a good thing. But what's happening, or at least what they portray is happening, is not a result of the Venezuelan government. It's a result of governments interfering with the Venezuelan government. The Venezuelans weren't doing so bad. They really weren't. Look at all the video and stuff like that you see coming out of there. Do they look like they're Ethiopians or anything? Do they look all skinny and the bones showing? No. A good number of them have a few extra pounds, and they've got nice clothes. I'm not saying they wear Pierre Cardin or nothing like that, but they're not wearing just rags, and they not doing that bad, folks. Probably pretty equal to most of us. Let's see. NATO bombing of Yugoslavia paved way for 1 million civilian casualties worldwide. That is horrifying to me. Absolutely horrifying. And this is why I said it needs to stop. Needs to stop. Most of this stuff is being done over money, over resources. Needs to stop. Google flipped seats, shifted millions of votes to Democrats in 2018 midterms. A researcher says this. That's not really surprising now, is it? Russia and U.S. compete for Asian LNG market share. China building its first nuclear-powered icebreaker to enter the Arctic. Which reminds me, I forgot. Don't let me forget about the WoW news. I was going to do that at the very top. I know what it is. Pilot crashes stolen plane into building in kamikaze murder attempt on wife. I'll tell you what, that's dedication. Let's see. Macron wishes injured 73-year-old yellow vest protester a speedy recovery, and get this, and wisdom. Right? 73-year-old lost an eye in the protest in France. Right? And Macron is just a jackass. What more can I say? You know, absolutely mind blowing. There's an 80-year-old. If you didn't know, there's already been an 80-year-old woman that's been killed at the protest by police. This, you know, and you hear the excuses from our government as to their involvement in Venezuela, for instance, because the poor Venezuelans, right? You know, what they're dealing with isn't humanitarian, and you know, we need to go down there and help the poor Venezuelans, right? But not a peep about this. Why? Well, because France is already part of the cog, or you know, part of the machine. They are one of the cogs, right? So they turn a blind eye to this. IDF confirms targeting Hamas leader Haniyeh's Gaza office in retaliatory strike, and I'm sure I butchered a lot of that. Air raid sirens sounding across southern Israel, and I posted that about 2 hours ago, so breaking about 2 hours ago. Another blackout leaves 16 of Venezuela's 23 states without electricity. Sorry, I said 21 states earlier. It's 23 states. A cop who gave feces sandwich to homeless person wins appeal for his job. Yeah. You heard me right. Yeah. Feces sandwich. Gave it to homeless person. Lost his job. Fought his firing. And won. I'm at a loss. I'm really at a loss. Let's see. And the last thing I tweeted was Trump's Golan Heights recognition an act of brigandry, says George Galloway. Again, you know, we are just now getting people's reactions, other countries' reactions to what Trump did today. I have a feeling that you're going to, you know, tomorrow there's going to be a ton of reactions that I cover because not a lot of them have had time to come in yet. So, as to the other news that I meant to share at the very, very, very top of the show, and it slipped my mind, and I apologize for that, Baby Rogue Squared is here. She has entered the building. I don't mean here like in our apartment, but Rogue Preparedness. I was trying to say Armed Rogue, which is the old channel name. Rogue Preparedness, she had her baby today. Baby's name is Archer, doing well, healthy, and she put out a video. I'm sure we'll run across it here when we are playing content. And so big congratulations to the Rogue family. So beautiful baby, absolutely gorgeous baby. So we'll run across that video here momentarily, I'm sure. So anyway, that's what I got for the monologue. Let me go ahead and close up the monologue, and we'll get involved into that content. I think the first thing that I'm going to play is that video that I was telling you about for the bonus army. So that way I don't forget to play it, and you really need to see it. So let me go ahead and close up as I normally close up the monologue. If you're here for the live show, we'll be live till 8 p.m. Don't go anywhere. Don't click off. Don't do anything. I just do this to close up the monologue because I put it out separately. Anyway, so if you're here for the live show, stick around. If you are here just for the monologue or watch the recording thereof, thank you very much. As always, God bless you. We love you, and be one with your spirit.